Welcome, Sonder fam, to this wonderful Tuesday evening social. My name is Bailey Grady, and I will be your facilitator today. I am really excited for the activities that we have tonight. We have some fun things and also some journal prompts that are absolutely going to get us to dig a little deeper. So that was the perfect opening song. If you are new, if this is like your first social or first journal prompt social, go ahead and give us a little like, hey, I'm new in the chat. Let us know. I already saw some really familiar names in the chat. So welcome back to all of you. Oh, yay. Welcome, Jenna. So for those of you that maybe this is new, what this is going to look like is we're going to do an opening activity together in our journals, and then we've got some activities in the journals that we'll do together. I'm going to kind of lead you through, give you some suggestions and things, and then put on some music so you can actually do those pages in your journal. Oh, Angela, thank you. Lipstick fixes everything, right? But also in the chat, which is already popping off, which I love, you're going to have some wonderful people here tonight. Our community is the best, and everyone is going to kind of be sharing at their comfort level what they may be answering or things that are coming to their mind as they're filling these out. So make sure that you are sharing and also reading what they're sharing for inspiration, because you never know what kind of little spark or connection of the dots or whatever will happen when you start engaging with your fellow Sonder fam. So in order to engage in that chat, it's really important that you make sure that the little blue box down where you type is set to everyone. If it isn't set to everyone, then not everyone will be able to see what you have to share, and we want everybody to be able to see that. As we go through this evening, I'll be sharing stuff up on the screen. Feel free to take photos, take notes, and then we would also love it if you take any photos of what you do in your journal. We'd love to see those either in the app for Sonder Club, or you can always tag us on Instagram, TikTok, wherever you're most comfortable. So we will run through our community guidelines. So as always, be kind and courteous to yourself and others. No promotions or spam, please. Respect everyone's privacy. What happens in our Sonder Social stays in our Sonder Socials, right? No hate speech or bullying. We need a nice, safe space to share. And try to limit repetitive product and accessory questions. We'll field those as best that we can, but our time is always limited in these socials, so we want to try to stay focused. And on that same note, there are certain things that myself and the fabulous Malika, who is my stage manager tonight, there are things that she's hopping on to say hello. There she is. the sun is glowing behind her. She and I do not have access to everything that they have over at headquarters, so we can't look into like subscription issues or emails or where the heck is my journal, right? It's missing. It should be here by now. All of those things we're not able to help with. So send a email over to hello@silkandsonder.com. Give them a day or so to get back to you. They are a small but mighty team over there, but they will get back to you and help you with those things if it is something that we are not able to help you with. And finally, Sonder Socials are a tool to help elevate your emotional health through the power of community, but you are responsible for your own emotions, well-being, and decisions. So that means that as we start getting into these fun activities or some of these more intense journal prompts here, if anything starts to come up for you that you're not ready to engage with, just take a break. Just put the pen down, relax, take some deep breaths, listen to the music. You do not have to engage with anything tonight that you are not ready to. If you want to hang out in the chat and leave the journal prompts for later, you can do that. If you just want to focus on your journal and you're not in a chatty mood, that is okay as well. This is your time that you've carved out for yourself, and we want you to be able to use that in whatever way that works for you. So we're going to do our opening activity, and then we are going to do our curiosity day prompts on page 15, and then we're going to do our curiosity sketches on page 16. So we're going to start with our theme, which is curiosity. We're about halfway through the month now, if you can believe it. So I hope that you know that that's our theme. And it's a fabulous theme. And for me, what curiosity is about is asking questions and digging a little deeper, right? Again, calling back to that song there, but also specifically with myself, right? I think that this theme is really an invitation for us to dig a little deeper with ourselves. when something is continuing to come up or we're really struggling with something, maybe it's a new habit or a new goal and we just like are struggling to meet it, instead of just continuously being frustrated and, Googling all the things of what should I do differently? How can I do this? What books do I need to read to build these habits, right? Like slowing down and checking in with yourself and saying, hey, what's my avoidance with this, right? Why am I struggling with this habit? Am I ready to start this habit? Do I need to start smaller? Is there something else I can do for myself? What is making it hard? Is there anything I can do about that, right? And kind of checking in and getting curious helps us to set more realistic expectations with ourselves and hopefully get to a place where we are implementing those habits and things that we want. But instead of letting the shoulds pile on top of us until we can't get off the couch, right? We are coming to ourselves from a place of curiosity instead of a place of blame or shame and saying, hey, that's okay. I'm just asking. I'm here to help you. Me, it's you and me. I'm here to help you. We're in this together, right? So just checking in with ourselves and finding out what we need. And when things are going great, also looking and checking those like trackers and different patterns and things and saying, hey, why did today end up being so good? Is there anything that I did that set myself up for success? What's working? What's not? Because sometimes the things that are actually helping you may not be the things that you're putting the most priority towards. And the only way that we can make that shift is if we start getting curious about those things and asking those questions. So, super great theme. We're going to kick off with a super fun activity. So you can do this on any blank page or space in your journal. And what we are going to do is write a haiku poem. Now, I don't think I've written one of these since I was in probably middle school. So I had to really focus. I was definitely asking the little robot, like, Alexa, how many syllables are in this word again? And it's 5, right? It's 3. It's 3. So I had to kind of second guess myself. So if you have to do a little bit of that as well, or do a little bit of Googling. Do not fret. I did like a little Google and found like a haiku poem checker that will even tell you exactly how many syllables you have in your lines. So if you want to do that, you can. But also, as always, this is your journal. This is just an exercise for us to reflect and think about a topic or question that piques our curiosity in like a different and fun way. So there's no journal police. There's nobody that's going to come and grade your poem, right? And I'm not going to show up at your house and count the syllables. So if you're like me and you needed to know whether or not you got the syllables, you can find out. But you can also just enjoy it and let go. So here are some examples of haikus, including my own. So I just decided to write my little haiku in the center of my mood tracker so that way I could kind of look at it whenever I fill that out. And when I was thinking back over here where it says about a topic or question that piques your curiosity, I was kind of gazing outside at the clouds and there were like these, wispy, like strawberry colored clouds outside. And I'm sure at some point in school I learned about clouds and water droplets and light reflection and all of that kind of stuff. But as an average everyday person, I couldn't just like recite out to you the reason that clouds are pink, right? At the end of the day, I don't have that particular gift. I'm sure we have some sciencey stuff here, some sciencey folks here who could probably tell you exactly why the clouds are pink at the end of the day. So I just decided to kind of reflect about the clouds, and what I ended up with is strawberry brushstrokes floating high above my head, magical sky dance. And then we've got some other examples here up on the screen. So any topic that piques your curiosity or interest, this could be something on a deeper level, or it could be something more, simple, like just what's outside your window. So I'll put on some music for you to think about your haiku. Definitely share with us in the chat how those are turning out. I would love to read them, and then we'll move on to our next activity together. All right. Thank you all for taking a little time to give this a try. And for those of you who shared in the chat, thank you for sharing. There are so many beautiful haiku poems in there. I mean, seriously, all of them are just they are either making me just feel like I'm there with you looking at nature or laughing with you as we think about these curious questions and moments of whimsy. I would love for you to share those in Sonder Club if you feel comfortable so that you can bring those same feelings out in the rest of our community who maybe were not able to make it tonight. So we are now going to move into our first event in our journals here. So flipping over to page 15, and we are going to conquer these journal prompts together. And the reason I say conquer is because some of these are some doozies. They are really asking us to like think about some big questions here. So I have filled them all in here and this is my page, but I think that it's going to be best if we kind of break this up a little bit as we are kind of thinking about this and sharing. So our very first prompt on the page here says, what are 3 things you know now that you wish you knew 5 years ago? And 5 years ago, if my math is correct, was 2019, y'all. 2019, July of 2019 specifically. And to think about a time before the pandemic is really wild. And thinking about where I was at that point in my life, and I'm sure it's the same for all of you. So up on the screen, there are all these different little, not necessarily quotes, but I guess words of wisdom. And what I did is I just went online and I was like, all right, Google, tell me, what do you wish you knew before you were 20? What about before you were 30, 40, 50, 60? And what I can tell you is that a lot of these same things showed up in every single one of those lists. But I pulled out a couple that I thought really spoke to the things that we try to focus here on in Sonder Club, which is like self-growth, right? And so there's a lot of really good words of wisdom and things up on the screen. Maybe they will help spark something for you. But for me, 2019, I was, especially July of 2019, I was probably right about here on the cliff of peak anxiety. And I had just a few months before I was going to completely fall off. And I had no idea. I was an anxious ball of nerves and mess and who knows what else. And I had no idea. I was just living my life because it was normal for me, right? And when I did finally whoop off the top of that mountain, I felt like I was never going to get my life back. I felt like this was my new normal and there was no way that I was ever going to be able to go back to living how I lived before, right? And so the very first line that I have there says, I wish that I knew that I will always live with my anxiety, but it will get better because I will always live with my anxiety. But the truth is that here I am 5 years later, and I'm actually living life relatively normally, especially compared to before. I'm kind of back to where I was before I even knew that I had anxiety, and not in a, oh, I'm fine, blinders kind of way, but in an actual, really good, healthy place way. And I did not know that I would ever get here. So I wish that I had had a way to know because it would have been helpful. The second thing I have is normality is fragile, but change comes with challenges and growth because we did all live through this thing called pandemic, right? And we all had very different experiences, I'm sure. And I think at this point, we can probably all agree that there were parts of it that were just terrible and awful, and we never ever want to do anything like it ever again. But if you're like me, it also forced you to slow down, and that did bring in some positive moments. Being able to slow down, the world shutting down, allowed me to focus on myself and do exactly what I needed to do for my mental health. And I hope that then the world never shuts down like that ever again. But if it had to happen, for me, it was the best possible time because I needed to stop everything. And then the last thing I have is you are not responsible for the emotions of others. That's one that I know now, but I'm still working on believing it. So I'm going to give you all a few moments to think about what are 3 things you know now that you wish you knew 5 years ago. I'll put on a song, share with us if you feel comfortable in the chat, and then we'll move into our next journal prompt together. All right. Thank you for thinking about this prompt. If you're still thinking, that is okay. And thank you so much for those of you who are willing to share in the chat. This is a big question to ask. And thinking about something like 5 years ago, it's wild because I wonder if 5 years ago would feel as long ago as it does now, 10 years ago. Like if we were asking in 2005 to think about the year 2000, would it feel as crazy as thinking about 2019 compared to now? Just because of everything that's happened collectively. And there were some big things that people shared in the chat, right? Like incredible risks that turned out amazing, right? Beyond your wildest dreams. And then also a lot of loss and hardships and things that we wish we could get back, but we can't get back time, right? So thank you all for sharing because I know that that can be really hard. We are going to move down to our next question here, which is where in your life are you doing more but could benefit from doing less? And I kind of had this thought when we were working on our haikus about how beautiful they all were. And really, like haikus are very simple poems, right? I think part of what makes them beautiful is that you kind of have to box yourself in on less, right? You get 3 lines, you get just those syllables for those lines, and all of the poems you all made were absolutely beautiful. So sometimes less is more, and I think our haikus were a perfect example of that. I think for me, while I love adventuring, doing a little less adventuring would allow me some time to slow down a bit more, which is a lesson that I learned in 2020, right? Something that I need to be doing is slowing down a bit more. And filling up my calendar with plans and obligations is also making me too busy. So I need that space to slow down. And days with no plans more often, my body, mind, and spirit need that downtime to just be. My anxiety needs it, my mental health needs it. I do really well when I can have a day to relax and not have any plans. And that's not like my only day to relax and do nothing, because then I have other things that I can't get to, right? I would really, really, really love 3 days off a week, maybe someday. So let us know in the chat what are things in your life you're doing more of, but could benefit by doing less, and why that might be as well. And then I'll put on another song here for you to think about it. Okay. Thank you all for thinking about the second prompt. Again, just like the last one, if you're still working on it, that is okay. You can come back to it or keep working on it as we move through. So the last two questions on this page, I decided to combine together because I think that they complement each other. And I have our sort of words of wisdom back up on the screen here. So the first question we have is, what were you doing 5 years ago that would make you cringe today? And what are you doing today that will make you cringe 5 years from now? So for me, I was definitely doing too much 5 years ago, too many plans, too much work to make those plans happen, very little time for myself versus others, which, based on what I said about less versus more, sounds like I might be starting to tip my toes into that same old trap. So if I don't kind of rein it back in and start to slow down, I think 5 years from now, I'll be cringing that I did not learn my lesson the first time around. But also, I would probably be cringing 5 years ago or 5 years from now, from doubting myself and being too hard on myself and always having unrealistic expectations. We were kind of talking about that in the chat, right? Less shoulds and more just, right? And just trying to be gentle with ourselves, not taking on responsibilities that aren't ours, the emotions of other people that aren't ours, trying to fit ourselves into a box of what we used to think life would be like or what other people around us might think, and just focusing on us and the fact that we're worthy and what we need and being good to ourselves, right? And then the second prompt we have here is, what advice would your older, wiser self give you about the decisions you're making today? So I said, I think she would say everything will work out. You're your own worst critic. Spend less time worrying whether you are or will be enough. You are always worthy, capable, strong, and full of so much good. So I think when you go to answer these questions, think about the questions you just answered, right? Because I think that these were all put together intentionally to kind of give us some little nuggets of wisdom and clues. And then think about these questions and think about everything we've talked about in the chat as well. So I'll put on some more music for this last few prompts here, and then we'll get into our last activity, which is going to be super fun. Thank you all for spending this time with yourselves. I just have to tell all of you how amazing you are. Like to sit here and spend this time with yourself and ask these questions and then write answers on paper. Like it sounds simple, right? Fill out the questions onto the paper. But like I said at the beginning, these are really big things to think about. And if you can spend this time with yourself thinking about these things and putting that pen to paper, even if you haven't finished yet, even if you are still working on one of these questions, this is a really big thing. And I think that any group of people that can sit and do this is probably capable of a lot more than we ever realize. So if that's any sort of motivation or inspiration, then maybe we should all add a little line at the bottom there that says, you had it all along, just like Catherine said. So we're now going to move into something a little bit more fun, a little bit more whimsical. This is going to be our curiosity sketches on page 16. So the prompt says to pick 3 objects in your home and get deeply curious about them. Sketch these objects and create a story on how that object came to be, where it came from, and what questions that you have. So I started by just thinking about what 3 things would I maybe want to sketch about or think about. If you're in your office, maybe there's some random items in there. If you're cozy in your bedroom, maybe there's some things in there. If you have a laptop or a phone and you can take me with you on a journey throughout your house and kind of find 3 random things, feel free to do that. Or you can just take inspiration from the activity today and kind of put the little sticky notes on there or make yourself a note and then kind of come back to this. So I started with the 3 things that I wanted to sketch out, and then I sketched them out. So the 3 things that I picked were a lamp that my dad gave me, one of my little glass animals. I have like a collection of blown glass animals. I've been collecting them since I was like a kid. And then our little salt grinder. So those are the things that I decided to kind of sketch. And then I decided to color them in a little bit and like refine them a bit. And as I started doing that, that's when kind of like the questions and stuff started to pop up for me. So the lamp is a bottle, it's like a Bailey's Irish cream bottle with a light on it and obviously like a lampshade. This is like the last birthday present my dad got me before he had a stroke and then ended up passing away. And my dad had not bought me a birthday present in like years. It was so random. It was so random. And yes, Brenda, absolutely, because my name is Bailey and actually there's like a familial story, like that's part of how I like got to be named Bailey. My mom had a name all picked out. She came home like crying because her coworker's daughter had just had a baby and they named her Megan Caroline, and that was exactly what they wanted to name me, was Megan Caroline. And so my mom was just heartbroken. And my dad had a bottle of Bailey's on like their coffee table area. And I guess there was a show called WKRN in Cincinnati. I don't know anything about it, but there was a character on there named Bailey. And my dad saw the bottle of Bailey's and he thought, and he was like, what about Bailey? And so that is how I got my name. So, so to Brenda's point, there is definitely like that connection there, but it was just such a random thing. And so I'm like, where did he find this lamp? Who made this lamp? Did he find it in a store? Did he have a friend make it for him? Like it was so random. And of course, when he gave it to me, I was like, what am I going to do with this thing? you know? And then shortly after, he ended up having a stroke and then ended up passing away from complications. And now, of course, it's like one of the most precious things in my home, right? So just having an opportunity to kind of think about that, and of course, wishing that I had asked him some of those questions as well, was like a good little activity. And then thinking about my little glass elephant, I'm like, who designed it? Was there somebody in a glass shop that came up with the design for the elephant? Was it like a corporate made design? Why did they decide to give the elephant a 4-leaf clover? Is there like a story about that that I don't know? Maybe there is a story about that. Maybe I should write a story about that, right? And then with my little salt shaker, the first thing that I thought of was, who decided to eat salt? Who took a rock and was like, I'm gonna lick that. I think about that all the time with food and different things. I'm like, who was the first person that was like, "Yep, that looks like something I'm gonna eat?" And especially rocket like salt in its purest form, right? It's like a giant rock. And then thinking about, okay, but at what point did we decide, okay, we got to break up the salt, and we used to buy it already broken, but how finely ground was it? And now in this day and age, we've decided, no, no, that's still not finely ground enough. And also, I want to do it myself. Like, at what point do we decide salt is best when it's ground fresh? Like, all of these things that we don't think about, right? We have all of these objects and different things in our life that we pass through every day in our home or elsewhere. And somehow they got there. Somehow they came into your house. Somebody had to make it. Somebody had to design it. Somebody had to buy it for a store so that you could buy it from the store, right? So it's really fun to just kind of take a moment and think about all these little everyday things that are around us and how they came into our lives. So I'll put on some fun music for you to get started. Certainly do not feel like you have to rush through this or get it done all the way to the end, right? I think I have some expounding upon I could do here, maybe writing out a little story for my elephant and that sort of thing. But definitely share with us in the chat what your objects are, what some of those questions are, and then we'll close out our time together. Believe it or not, as always, our time is way too fast, and we are now at the end of our time together. So I'm sure many of you are still working on this page, and I fully expect that. I think it took me probably about an hour to get to this point with mine and everything. But hopefully this kind of like is got the juices flowing and has like jump started you in the right direction. And I won't tell anybody who needs to know what time the social ended. So if you need to hang out in your space wherever you are for a little bit longer to do this page, promise Malik and I will not tell anybody. But we are so grateful that all of you joined us here this evening. They're still doing this 10% off on the Elevate Planner. If any of you are interested in that, if you liked the activities we did tonight, I believe this is full of all kinds of really good introspective questions and goodness. Also, we are still doing all the fun stickers. I didn't have any stickers on my pages tonight, but I've definitely been using them in my setups, both from the monthly and the big sticker book. As always, we are still doing our Refer a Friend program. So if you refer somebody to Silk and Sonder, they'll get $10 off. You'll get $10 off, and then you can come to fun socials like this together. If you're able to upgrade to an annual subscription, it can definitely save you some cash. So something to think about. It's July, right? Christmas in July? Why not? And then be sure to fill out the survey. You can either use that QR code on the screen right now to fill it out and let us know what you think, or wait until you get the post email. There should be a link there within 24 hours for you to let us know what you liked about this social, what you didn't. If there's anything we can do differently, definitely let us know. And then Malik will share in the chat the link to our YouTube page where this social and most of our other ones are recorded and then reposted. There's like 750 or something socials on there now, so feel free to check those out if you're ever not able to attend one. And then I will share in the chat the link to the playlist that I played for us tonight. But you should be able to search all of my playlists on Spotify. Eventually I do kind of cycle them into like one giant playlist because I start to get too many playlists and it stresses me out. So you can either find my master list on there or some of mine for the last few months. But it was our sincere pleasure to spend all of this time with you this evening. Thank you for sharing with us, for being so vulnerable and open. And as always, be good to each other. And until the next social, we will see you all in Sonder Club.
Sometimes my tries are outside the line.